Welcome to Creating Disney Magic with Lee Cockrell. Lessons in leadership, management, and customer service. You can create magic too. I'm your host, Jody Mayberry, and I'm here with Lee Cockrell. How you doing, Lee?
Hi, Jody, and we're great. Having a gorgeous day here in Florida.
Great. Today I wanted to talk about processes. You and I have dealt with companies where there's been some little glitch that just doesn't seem to go right. And from the outside, it's pretty obvious, hey, that process doesn't work right. So how does that happen where a company does something that on the outside, it's apparent that it doesn't work well, but yet from the company's perspective, they're still doing it?
Yeah, I think what happens is, something happened back one time a year ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and they put in some process to put some control on something or try to get consistency with it. Or I always say it's either a process, a policy, a guideline, an operating rule. People call them all kinds of different things, but you're supposed to follow them. And then time goes by and they never take a look at them. And then eventually find out that policy, procedure, operating rule is not working very well. And in fact, it's really a hassle for their customers, even for the employees inside the company, that it's a hassle and it doesn't do much, but it's been there for so long and they don't sit back and evaluate it. I try to tell everybody, occasionally sit back and say, do we really still need this policy? Now that we have different technology, can that be the control we can use? Or do we need to do more training so the customers and the employees understand the policy and why we have it? And do any of our policies and procedures and rules and operating guidelines keep the employees from using their good judgment to take care of the customer because they're afraid of getting into trouble? And it just happens that, we just keep doing the things we've always done until we have a crisis. And then sometimes we'll change a rule or a policy. Maybe a crisis might be losing a huge account in your business because the people finally got fed up with your payment system or with your invoicing system or with your customer system for taking care of complaints. You never know which one. Just one day people would walk out and say, that's it, I've had it enough. I'm so frustrated with this policy they have that I'm going to go find somebody else to do business with. And so this is one that you can't avoid. You've got to, I would say the way you can find out what policies and procedures, rules, and operating guidelines are not working is look at guest complaints, see if any of those are around policy. Talk to your employees who do the jobs. Ask them, what do you hear every week from the employees or from the guests? What are they complaining about? What don't they like? What do they say about our return policy? What do they say about our policy for holding things for 5 days until they come back? Or what do they say about our credit card policy? Or just keep asking the employees who do the work, what complaints are you getting? And then that'll probably give you some ideas of ones you might want to go take a look at. You might want to change the policy, the rule, the operating guideline, or you may want to adjust it a little bit to make it a little more customer friendly. And the same with employees. Sometimes we got rules around how you get your vacation and it's cumbersome and nobody knows how to do it. And you got to wait for the manager to come back from his vacation before you can do it because you don't have it automated yet. And then all of a sudden your employees are getting hassled. You certainly don't want to hassle your employees because when they're hassled, they're not going to give very good service to your guests and to your customers and to your patients and passengers and all of those different constituencies. So I'm always thinking about, wonder why they have that policy. Why do they have that rule? Who put that in? And usually it's either put in by legal. A lot of them today we're faced with because of legal. Maybe they're in a business which has a lot of restrictions around it, or it's a government issue and they like policies and procedures and rules and guidelines, like the IRS kind of. And we've just got to keep it. Good leaders are going to be out there reevaluating them and seeing if they can be eliminated, improved, changed, or whatever. So that's how I think about them when I go out and about. So every time you have a problem with a company, you're probably annoyed at some way or some policy they have that got in the way of you doing a good job. Like a policy on an airline, trying to get an airline ticket changed. And even if you're willing to pay them more money, they're so strict on their policy that they actually even lose money sometimes. Listen, read guest letters, read complaints, talk to customers, ask your customers in your business, what policies, procedures, rules do we have here that you don't like? I was going to my dry cleaners all the time, and everybody in America, now you don't have to sign the credit card voucher unless it's over $50. And I go into a place and I go in there to get my shirts and it's, like $8.95 and I got to wait and sign this thing. I told him, I said, hey, why are we doing this? Let's quit doing this. And he changed it. He didn't even realize that, everybody else has already changed. So sometimes we just don't know that you're not going to lose anybody for the customer not signing a credit card voucher under $50, I assure you. So, in fact, I don't even know what they do with all those signatures. There's many of them that we just get used to, and that's the problem. Don't get used to things. Always be challenging. Why do we do this? So that's kind of the backstory on that.
Do you have an example from your career where you found or discovered a policy that wasn't working right and you were able to change it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have one in my book, Creating Magic, about when I was a general manager of a Marriott. And one morning, the guests came in to see me, and they were furious. I said, what happened? They said, they were in your restaurant last night, and we were celebrating our 20th anniversary or 25th or something, and we ordered a nice bottle of wine, and we ordered the most expensive item, some lobsters on the menu, and we got our lobsters, and we still didn't have our wine. We hadn't had it. We'd been sitting there for 20 minutes. So I went and checked into it, and it turns out we had a very strict policy that you have to go get the key from the manager to open the wine vault, to get the wine bottle, then you have to ring it up, and you have to show your manager that you've rung it up. So we didn't have anybody stealing wine from us. And somebody had put that policy in like 20 years ago, and we were still following it, and we were really annoying guests. And so I said, okay, guys, I get it. Here's the new policy. Unlock the cabinet, leave it unlocked during the time the restaurant's open. The waiter goes and serves the wine. Manager, you can check occasionally. Then we told the waiters, if we catch anybody taking a bottle of wine not charging for it, you're fired. That's a new policy. That worked just fine. And guests got, if you can get the first bottle of wine over there, you got a good chance to sell the second one. But if you don't get the first bottle over there till 10 minutes before they leave, you're not going to sell more. I always tell waiters in restaurants, don't bring me bread and water, bring me the cocktail. Then you can pour some water and then bring the bread. Bring things in the right order where you can make some money.
So I was talking to a company recently, and I'm not going to give many details to not give anything away, but this company had conflicting policies. And to set it up, the accounts payable had some customers that were paying late, very late, where they even wanted to put them on, you have to pay cash or you have to pay before we deliver in order to continue to do business with us. Yet the salesmen were paid on commission, so they would continue to visit the customer and make sales and deliver the product. So the company had two policies that were in direct conflict with one another, and the people in the field had no interest in helping out accounts payable policy because they wouldn't get their commission. So if you're in a situation like that and you're not in a position to change a policy, you're an employee that's faced with that. How do you handle that?
Well, that's why I talk so much about making sure if you're the boss, you own the business, or you're the CEO or president, or if a small company, you are the owner, you've got to have this clarity with all of your employees that they keep you informed and they tell you when they're having a problem. And that's the boss's. Boss has got to get the salespeople in the room. He's got to get the accounting people in the room. That's what he gets paid for, to make the hard decisions and to then clarify for everybody in the company, here's the way we're going to do it from now on, guys. And I don't want to have this going on anymore. So, there's a time when the boss has got to step in and be the kind of the middle person, listen to all the facts from both sides and make a decision. That's what they get paid for, is make the hard decisions. So those have got to be brought to somebody. You can't just keep having accounts payable or accounts receivable trying to solve it with the salesman's never going to give in to them. Sometimes you need an authority figure to person who writes their paycheck to tell them, here's how it's going to be, especially salespeople. Because they're, of course, sir, they want to sell. They're making money. Commission, absolutely. Salespeople sell, and they're not worried about collection so much. They should be, and maybe that's even a better one, that when you hire a salesperson, you got to maybe be real clear about their responsibility for making sure that our customers can pay their accounts and we're not selling them things if they don't have the credit worthiness or their abilities. And sometimes we're not clear enough about it. And then sometimes it's going on and the two departments are fighting with each other and the boss needs to step in and to resolve that. It's like going to marriage counseling. Sometimes you got to go.
Well, one of the things we like to do with this show is have listener questions. And if a listener wants to submit a question, they can send it to me, Jody, at jodymayberry.com. That's JODYMABERRY. Or they can send it to you, Lee, at leecockrell.com. We really enjoy getting those questions and having them answered right here on the show. And we have one today from Keith Bauer. Sometimes quiet, introverted technical experts can seem disengaged when dealing with customers, especially when dealing with the people side. How can I help these introverts be more effective?
Yeah, well, that's not uncommon. I know in my own career, I was very introverted when I was a young person, kind of lack of self-confidence. I was kind of wired that way. I'd grown up kind of that lack of self-confidence, not believing in myself. And I think a lot of people in technical fields can come off that way. Sometimes engineers, sometimes finance people who are not used to working with public face-to-face and can come off as very introverted and not very comfortable and sometimes even bashful about that. And I was lucky enough, and I think Mr. Bauer and all of us need to think about, okay, when we spot this in somebody, unless we help them get out of that, it's going to hurt their career. If you can't communicate well, if you can't maintain relationships, if you can't get up in front of a group and speak, if you can't, that outgoing personality. I'm a recovering introvert, literally. I mean, I had to work really hard at it. I got somebody to help me with speeches, how to give them. Somebody who started forcing me to get in front of people and speak. And slowly but surely, it's like anything. You can turn it around, but it's hard. This is the problem. And public speaking or speaking up or saying what you think, telling the truth is scary for a lot of people. They don't want to get in trouble. They're afraid they might get fired. But I tell you, the boss should try to spot these people and then help them, get them to Toastmasters, make them go there, make them go every Thursday night to Toastmasters where they have to get up and give a 3-minute speech, call on them in meetings and get them used to being called on so they're prepared. It's just, I tell you what, if you would have told me that I would have a public speaking business today when I was younger, I'd say, are you out of your mind? I'd rather jump off the Grand Canyon than do that. And what happened is I just got more and more comfortable with it because first I learned to speak up. I learned that actually my boss liked that, wanting to know the truth. I learned how to tell stories and make my points with speaking up and telling stories about my life, using personal examples. And it's like anything. I don't care what problem you have in your life. You can get better. But will it be fun? No. You'll be terror. I mean, it's pure terror. My son told me once that public speaking is scarier than bungee jumping. So it is for a lot of people, and they get paralyzed, and it really hurts your life when actually you can work your way out of it. I just gave a lady in one of my seminars, she told me how introverted she was, and I bought her a book on public speaking and how to get out of it, how to work on it, and I sent it to her, and then I challenged her to step up and get out of her comfort zone and start doing this because you got to get to know people, you got to maintain relationships, you got to be comfortable speaking up and speaking to people and speaking in front of people. And it'll really impact your career pretty dramatically. You'll make more money. You'll get more promotions. If you don't speak up, your boss is going to wonder if you have an opinion or what's wrong with you or why don't you ever add more value to our company because we never hear from you. So I think we've got it's kind of, it's like my grandkids, we wanted to make sure that they were not introverted and spoke up. We made sure they were always at the dinner table with us, with adults. And we make sure, that and they take speech and they take debate in school, even though they might hate it. And even at Christmas Eve, we play games with a lot of friends at the house, and they have to get up and do a little show, a little piece, a little part. And it's like anything. If the more you do it, the easier it gets. So if you got something you're not doing well, I would say, like in my time management book, what are you going to do about it? Are you just going to let it suffocate you, or are you going to go get some expert help and fix it, get over it? And hopefully the boss will speak to these people and help them, give them the right tools and resources to help people get out of that. They'll be better employees, they'll be more productive, and they'll have a better life, and they'll thank you one day for helping them get out of that. Because it's pretty paralyzing to be highly introverted and not afraid to speak up and to get up in front of an audience. So it will help you even feel better. I mean, it's quite stressful, actually, for a lot of people. They just be like want to die if somebody called on them in a meeting to stand up and talk about something, and that's not good. So that's how I think about it.
And I think if you're not like that, it can be hard to understand how hard it can be for people that feel that way.
Oh, yeah. It's rough. Like that when you're 13 asking that girl for the first date, it's scary. She might say no.
Well, I want to let people know that this show is on iTunes. It's on Stitcher. They can find it on your website. We've been getting a lot of reviews on iTunes. People are saying good stuff, and we'd appreciate it if you would consider leaving a review on iTunes if you like what you're hearing. Thank you for listening to Creating Disney Magic. Now you can go out and create magic in your organization.